With a ridiculous, on-the-nose title like Wizard with a Gun, you know exactly what you're getting into. You're a wizard, and you have a gun. But the gun is also your wand, so even though you're shooting all manner of creatures, it's magical shooting. Pulling off spell combos and crafting new bullets can be a ton of fun with a friend in co-op, and there's a good amount to explore for fans of survival sandboxes. But balance issues and the lack of a proper ending leave it feeling like it's missing an early access label. Wizard with a Gun's great opening immediately gets you into the action with a campaign that's easy to understand on its face. With only 5 minutes left before the world ends, you have to keep turning back the clock in order to defeat chaos and save all existence. How you choose to use each 5-minute chunk is up to you, be it gathering resources for a complex and sometimes unwieldy but rewarding crafting system, or maybe facing off against a mini-boss to gather gears that allow you to unlock more areas. At any point, you can choose to escape to the tower, where you can spend as much time as you want doing research to gather more bullet types and powders to enhance their abilities. You can also decorate your headquarters using recipes you get through exploration, although there isn't much to gain for doing so. Once you're ready, you reset the clock and you venture back out. You can run through the campaign solo or with one partner, and the co-op is super easy to set up. You just start a save file in multiplayer mode and a friend can hop in and out. While they won't join your game with any items, it's easy to stash some of your own in the tower for them to use. You'll have plenty too, as there are 4 types of guns available to find at various levels of power, and you can carry up to 6 at a time. Because progression is tied to your guns and upgrades, you can easily jump back and forth into each other's save files, or just use the same save file when playing alone to progress on your own. And you'll probably want to play co-op because the overall experience differs wildly from playing solo. Wizard with a Gun attempts to make co-op runs more difficult by introducing more enemies. Instead of facing off against one chaos creature, for example, you'll get 2. That sounds like an intuitive, easy way to balance having a partner, but there's a lot of unintended side effects. For one, when you defeat a chaos enemy, you can then reduce the overall chaos, which means you can get more time added to the countdown to the end of the world. This works well when you're by yourself since you'll get an extra 30 seconds every so often, but when there's 2 of you, you get way more time than you need. And creatures seem to take the same amount of damage regardless if you're alone or with a partner, so you'll just struggle more while playing solo because many encounters were significantly more difficult. That's especially true with bosses, since they'll essentially take double damage when you're with a friend. The result is that neither mode feels balanced properly, with enemies that are too difficult by yourself or too easy when you're with a partner. The balance problems are even more apparent when it comes to the spells. You start off with a basic damage bullet, but you can unlock multiple research stations that give you access to more bullet types. There are the obvious ones like burning, poison, and ice, but the more you upgrade, the more humorous and fun they become. For example, one station can upgrade the damage of your ice bullets, but you can unlock more aspects of the research tree to get a bullet that instead encases an enemy in a block of ice. Others summon boulders from the sky or can charm or frighten enemies to break up encounters. You can also craft powders, which are basically bullet attachments that generate other effects for devastating combos. Some just increase damage, but others might leave a trail that can boost the efficacy of your bullets. Put a water trail on a cold bullet and it will increase how quickly you can freeze your enemy. Put an oil trail on a fire bullet and watch everything go up in flames. One of Wizard with a Gun's great joys is trying out different combos and seeing what happens. And with 4 biomes to explore, you'll want to change around your equipment often. Or that would be the case if there wasn't one bullet type that was far superior to all the others. Lightning. There are 2 kinds, general shock bullets and ones that call down lightning strikes for massive damage. The long cooldowns might initially deter you from using them, but if you put lightning strikes on each of your guns, you can get around the cooldown entirely simply by switching between weapons. This is just one example that shows that bullet types are horribly uneven, whether it's due to how much damage they deal, how many of them it takes to instill an effect, or how early they're introduced in the campaign. You'd think something as powerful as lightning would be locked farther down in the research tree, but you can unlock it before you even beat the first boss. Even when you decide to switch to some of the more interesting types, they can have very limited uses or don't always work as advertised. Charming bullets theoretically make enemies friendly, but it takes way too many bullets to try to turn just one, especially when you're getting bombarded on multiple sides. Similarly, the Order bullet only deals damage to Chaos enemy types, but even with upgrades, it can't differentiate itself from a regular damage type gun. So many of the spell types have the potential to be exciting, and not every option has to be damage heavy and powerful, but more work could have been put into making sure you'd actually want to try out the different combinations. You can unlock all the bullets if you're a completionist, but besides different enemies forcing you to swap between a few basic bullet types, there aren't a lot of reasons to do that research. The place where Wizard with a Gun's frayed edges are the most apparent are with its story. There's a good amount of environmental storytelling that you can unlock by scanning parts of the world, along with NPCs that give you a bit of obtuse and poetic dialogue about what happened and why existence is ending. But little of it felt worth listening to or learning about. You can stop and read every piece of lore that you want, but it doesn't do much besides slow down the flow of gameplay. All you need to know is that the world is ending, and powerful mages messed around and found out. Plus, it's tough to think about if any of it really matters when getting to the end and defeating the final boss is an extremely anticlimactic affair. We won't show it here, of course, to avoid spoilers, but frankly, it's just incomplete. Some of the bosses, like the barbarian Kolana, require you to figure out her attack pattern. But the final boss doesn't utilize much strategy at all. You can spam whatever weapons you have and take them down. Then, once you defeat them, there's a little dialogue, a congratulations, and the credits roll. And that's it. There's still a lot more to do in Wizard with a Gun since you can continue playing after the campaign to unlock everything. But when you work so hard to get through 4 unique, sometimes very difficult bosses, only to get to a final boss that's far less interesting than any of them, and the news is that you have to wait for future updates to see more of the story, it feels like you should have just waited for those additions in the first place. Wizard with a Gun does what it says on the tin, but not much more. There are tons of cool guns and spells to craft, elemental enemies to defeat, and neat areas to explore, but poor balance in almost every aspect of combat and an unsatisfying ending make a lot of that time spent not seem worthwhile. With some updates and improvements where it counts, Wizard with a Gun could be a fun time for survival sandbox fans, but right now, it just feels unfinished. Could it have used more time? Only the future will tell. For more co-op action, check out our review of Endless Dungeon or Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And for everything else, stick with IGN.